people that do not support the unaliving of an entire ethnicity, and Hasan Piker, welcome to a brand new video. Yeah, today's gonna be a pretty crazy heavy one. In case you're unaware, this guy is 360% cooked. It is so over. Well done, hard-boiled, bro is donezo. He is actively supporting, if from my perspective, in my opinion, he is actively supporting the murder of all Jews. This is a big twist. No one saw this coming. You're probably thinking, wow, Nux, you're probably taking this over the top. This is a big video with a lot of evidence and a ton of research. We will be going through it. If you get through this video, let me know what you actually think. For those of you that are unaware, Hasan Piker actually is one of the main characters of the How Effed is Hasan Piker franchise. We are currently sitting at 360%. We have been documenting the amounts of war crimes that he has been actively defending. He is the biggest leftist political streamer in the world. He doesn't just defend terrorism, he advocates and supports it in wild, upfront ways, and it's only gotten so much worse. So, lock in, boys and girl. We are covering probably the craziest update of this entire series. And, yeah, look at the amount of tabs that I have open, literally ready. I read through UN court documents and shit for this one. All right, listen, no one's perfect, but neither am I. Now, what I am about to say in this video, this isn't me condoning every action in the history of Israel and every individual soldier and broadly saying that, you know, Israel good. That is not the statement here. The statement is, this guy is supporting the direct murder of basically every single person in Israel constantly. And we're gonna be going a little deeper into this little rabbit hole today. History's greatest franchise. I am here to debunk a lot of lies and tell you why these lies are being told. So this is a controversial one. Strap in, boys and girls. It's gonna be crazy. So, this week started pretty well with Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. He won all 7 swing states, all 7 of them. It's crazy. These Houthis gathered for instructions on an attack. Oops, there will be no attack by these Houthis. They will never sink our ships again. And then he posts this video. These are Houthi terrorists. In case you are unaware, these are terrorists that have literally shown up. They've shown up to do some sort of meeting, and Trump showed that they actually bombed the Houthis. Now, I show this because Hasan is actually very pro-Houthi terrorists. Now, you might think that Hasan wouldn't like Houthi terrorists because, you know, they're terrorists. They have slave child soldiers, which we will get to a little later in this video, but nope! The Houthis are no longer in one piece, for real, for real. So, the week started with this, and it only got crazier. So, Hasan was at a pro-Palestine protest. Nothing wrong with peaceful protesting. Nothing wrong with some peaceful protests. He was at a peaceful protest, and he gave a speech. I'll show you the highlight of the speech in a minute. But this is some dude that walked up to Hasan, one of the Hasan fans that had some nice things to say.
General dynamics.
I just want to say I don't want people in America to forget about BLM. I don't want people to forget about black people. I don't want people to forget about the millions of black people who are incarcerated. 25% of black people in America are incarcerated. Free black people, free Palestine, free Sudan, free Elim, free Papua, free the Tamils, free everybody. Allah Akbar, al-Mutahar, al-Mutahar, Debunking Hussein, Debunking Hussein. Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah Akbar! Allah
Yeah, so you're probably wondering, what did he say in this very tolerant, peaceful way? He said something incredibly tolerant and peaceful, probably. Now, you're probably wondering, what did he say to Hasan Piker, everyone's favorite socialist streamer wearing a $1,500 jacket that looks like ass? Well, if you want to translate it, he actually said, a curse upon the Jews, a curse upon Israel, death to America, death to Israel. At your service, Hussein. At your service, Hussein. God is great. So in case you were curious, this is what they call a gloriously peaceful protest. This is just people coming together to spread love. Hell yeah, gamers. That's our guy. Classic Hasan fan in action. We love to see it. It's pretty crazy. Anywho, Hasan had some very nice choice words to say by this protest, by this rally. Here's what he had to say. I'm not going to show you the whole speech. The whole speech is basically that Trump is kidnapping people and stuff. You know, the same lies that we've already covered previously on this franchise. He makes believe that when Trump deports people that are not citizens, that support terrorists, that is basically Trump kidnapping them, which is retarded. But he finishes the speech with this.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free!
Now, this is a very popular phrase that you see by basically all of these protests. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Now, a lot of people don't actually know what that means. I am going to be as upfront and honest as I possibly can. All right, this is the words of an actual congressman. All right. River to the sea means Israel is eliminated and the Jews will be murdered or removed. It is between the river south of Israel and the sea to the west, northwest of Israel. It is wiping out all Jews in Israel. That is what river to the sea means. Now, he knows that, okay? Let's just be honest. He absolutely knows that. Hasan is not confused by any of this shit. He knows that that's the case. That's just become the cool slogan. For the full quote, from the river to the sea, and the Jews of blood shall, the blood of Jews shall flow and shit. That's the actual full quote. But he didn't say that part because obviously that's a little less easy to, you know, propagate. But anywho, just trying to translate, give you the full perspective. This isn't trying to be controversial or anything. For yesterday's updates, this happened literally... Wait, what the fuck? Hold up. Yeah, this happened literally yesterday. Hamas shot rockets into civilian areas. So when everyone talks about war crimes and shit, no one actually talks about that Hamas is still firing rockets into civilian areas to this day. This happened literally yesterday. But anywho, I wanted to mostly focus on this specific video. The Hasan Piker is 360% fucked. I wanted to talk about this from a much, much deeper perspective. Let me teach you. Let me explain to you. The Hasan propaganda machine. Because I don't think anyone's actually covered this as thoroughly as I am. And we are going to get a level deeper. This is Hasan Piker's strategy. He knows that whenever he says, if you care about Medicaid fraud, you should kill Rick Scott. And he's directly telling his audience to kill United States senators, all right? Which he's done, by the way. This is a real thing. Biggest leftist political streamer on the platform, by the way, supports terrorism and violence of all kinds. This is him reacting to Noah Samsen. He does this a lot. He doesn't actually want to say the quiet part out loud because he knows people will clip him out of context. He knows that people are going to clip him in ways that'll make him look more controversial than perhaps he wants to sound. He wants to nudge people into the direction of committing acts of violence, as I've proven in my previous videos, in my opinion. He doesn't actually want to say it directly because he doesn't actually want to get in trouble. So he has his small army of useful idiots that he reacts to on YouTube, that these videos get posted of him reacting to it, where essentially he is sitting there nodding his head the entire time while his useful idiot goes ahead and spouts countless lies that Hasan does not correct a single one of them. This is like not just cowardice, it is propagandizing to the most insane degree. This is his reaction to a Noah Samsen video that we're going to be breaking down today. Noah Samsen, for those of you that are unaware, is a white liberal leftist YouTuber guy who basically says anyone that ever criticizes Hasan must support genocide because Hasan is anti-genocide, implying that what Israel is doing is a genocide in Gaza. That's obviously what he's saying. So since Hasan is anti-genocide, if you criticize Hasan, then you must be anti-genocide. Therefore, you're pro-genocide. So he has this whole list of anyone that ever criticized Hasan, and he basically slanders them as genocidal maniacs, including people like Klein and Mutahar and that whole squad. Currently, Noah Samsen is getting sued by Klein and Mutahar, and I will literally just enjoy from the sidelines watching that shit go down. But this is just like a classic moment of Hasan reacting to Noah Samsen.
The Gaza wall came down. There were criminal elements that also infiltrated.
Right, he's talking about October 7th. Where there was one of the biggest terrorist attacks in the history of the world, where 3,000 people, terrorists, came out of Gaza and murdered 1,200 innocent Israeli civilians and then kidnapped hundreds. Just in case you're curious, that's what happened. That's what he's talking about, where there were criminal elements, where they raped and murdered women and children.
Israel proper. So I'm not going to offhandedly and immediately discount potentially occurring in that situation. It is likely that it happened.
Wait, so it's likely that these war crimes, that these terrorist attacks and atrocities happened?
Having said that, however, there was no evidence and there has yet to be any
Look how he corrects himself.
Singular hard evidence of taking place on October 7.
Look at him actually trying. Don't worry, I'm gonna have the UN report later in the video because we're gonna cover this in more detail. But this is just an instance of him reacting to Noah Samsen's like infinite lies jutsu. Like, dude, you don't understand. So Noah Samsen does this whole hour-long video, and he'll just sit there and he'll try to throw in as many buzzwords as he can. No singular instance of hard evidence. Mr. Baby Settlers Piker over here, who thinks that babies are valid military targets. This guy, your moral barometer and authority, I've covered that in the past. So anywho, this is his new strategy. His new strategy is react to people saying unbelievable, outrageous bullshit, and he just kind of silently co-signs it on the side without actually needing to say anything himself. So for all extensive, intensive purposes, I am going to be debunking 100 lies from Noah Samsen's video that Hasan co-signs, and that because that is his new strategy of letting other people lie, and he could just react to it and say and to propagate the propaganda further. So I just want you to understand the cycle of fuck that this man actually deals with on a daily basis in order to get his bullshit, lies, and propaganda and terrorist support out into the public. In Noah Samsen's video, he directly advocates for Houthi terrorists, for Hezbollah terrorists, and for Hamas terrorists. All right? But he's just the useful idiot generic white guy in America. Hasan would never say these things. He would just react and kind of nod his head and approve. Because you know he approves, because he reacts to every single Noah Samsen video ever. Noah Samsen gets clout because a big leftist political streamer reacts to him. Big leftist political streamer doesn't actually need to say bullshit because he could just put this other guy on stream saying the bullshit for him. We are all on the same page. This is the actual cycle that this man actually deals with. So, now that that has been settled, I want to introduce you to Noah Samsen a little bit before we actually get too involved into his lies. So this is a clip from Noah Samsen's video that he's cut out of his video. All right, he has already cut this out of the video that he posted because he realizes that that kind of makes him very, very looking bad. So this is Lonerbox, a leftist streamer that's reacting to Noah Samsen's actual pro-genocide video where he actually directly advocates to murder every Jew in Israel, as I will get to, in my opinion. That's my perspective of his video.
People living in the West have the most power over anyone else in the world to stop the genocide. We are living in the belly of the beast. We have direct geographial, physical access to the politicians, the propagandists, the weapons companies, and the supply chains that are facilitating this genocide.
So pay attention to what he's saying. He's saying that we in the West can make a difference because we have physical, geographical access to politicians. What do you think that could mean, huh? Don't worry, it gets better.
Protesting is great. We should keep doing that. But also, you know, I feel like we have to be honest with ourselves. 17 months in, and what is protesting actually accomplished? Raising awareness, sure. Divestment, yeah, in some places. But really politically...
So he's saying protesting is not enough, all right?
Materially, nothing. Israel just killed the most children in its history in a single night with total impunity, with a deafening silence among the Western media. If we want this genocide to stop, it's time to escalate.
That's all right, gotta escalate. So, geographical advantages were next to politicians. Protesting wasn't enough. What are you advocating for, Mr. Samsen?
That's all I'm saying. So anyways, yeah.
Mr. Generic white guy with no degree in politics?
Yes,
you can lay it out very easily, one sentence at a time.
Yeah.
It's quite clear.
Yeah.
We in the West have direct physical access to a bunch of people, including the propagandists.
Right.
After just labeling a bunch of people creators, propagandists. What does protesting achieve? Well, some things, but you know, overall, basically.
Right, remember, this guy calls people like me, people like Ethan Klein, people like Mutahar, Turkey Tom, anyone that ever criticized Hasan Piker, in his mind, is a propagandist that they have physical access to. Okay?
Nothing. If we want this to stop, we need to escalate. That's all I'm saying. I'm sorry. If you had a clear vision for what needs to be...
This is an incitement of violence 1,000%. 1,000% he's trying to incite violence. Look at the actual trickle-down effect, all right? Look at the trickle-down effect. You have Hasan Piker supporting terrorists, puts this guy on his stream without pushback at all. This guy tells his audience through messy language to use their geographical, direct physical access to propagandists to escalate above protesting, right? He's trying to say it in a way that he might not get in trouble, so that one of the people watching him, or watching him through Hasan, will go and murder a YouTuber or a politician that they don't like. This is a direct call to violence. This guy's fucking unhinged.
To be done to stop the genocide, you would say it because you want to direct your audience into something fruitful, unless the thing you want your audience to do
is not legal,
against TOS, violent, etc. He's calling for people to do something that he is too cowardly to say himself.
He's telling people to go murder politicians and to go murder YouTubers that criticize Hasan. Okay, well, in my opinion, that's what he's saying. All right, so let's try to put as many asterisks as you want on what he's saying. He is directly advocating for escalating above protesting, using your physical access to YouTubers and politicians. What do you think that's doing?
He's calling for people to do dirty work for him.
No shit.
That's what this is.
No
It
shit.
is unambiguously a call for violence, okay? I'm sorry. And he doesn't want to spoil his cute little life. He doesn't want to fuck his income and ruin the little cushy career that he's got a hold of.
Yeah, he's got a good career. Hasan just reacts to his videos and puts him in front of his audience.
Doesn't want to do that.
No.
He wants other people to fuck up their lives and get thrown in jail or whatever else for him.
True.
He wants other people to be Luigi or fucking, what's his face? Aaron Bushnell. Or
So this is incredibly obvious. I think anyone that with a working brain actually sees that that's exactly directly what he did. Without ambiguity, he basically told people to commit acts of violence. In fact, it's so obvious, he chopped the part out of the video. He straight up removed this part from the video because, yeah, there is no way to possibly frame this. So Hasan Piker is a backseat terrorist to this guy who's inciting violence on politicians. From my perspective, in my opinion, allegedly. Okay, that is absolutely what it looks like. Without even a shadow of a doubt, there is no debate here. So, before we actually break down all the lies in this guy's actual video, because we are going to do that, he basically has 100 lies. That's what the rest of these tabs that I have open and hours of looking up shit went into. Before we get into that, I want to say that I am personally against the 613,000 people that were killed in Syria, the 380,000 people that were killed in Yemen, the 240,000 people that were killed in Afghanistan, the 500,000 people that were killed in Sudan, the 300,000 people that were killed in Iraq, and the 62,000 that were killed in Nigeria. Now, you're probably wondering why am I mentioning that? And that's simple, because if you criticize me, then you are protesting for the lives of the Syrians and Yemenis and Afghanistan people that are dying. So I'm just saying, if you criticize me, well, that means you want all these people to die. By the way, none of these people were killed by Israel or Jews or anything like that. All right. In fact, the terrorist organizations that Noah Samsen and Hasan Piker actually support, like Hezbollah, for example, contributed to the death of the 613,000 people in Syria directly. So now that we're all on the same page, now that we know what's happening, all right? Now that we're all literally here on the same page, I wanted to break apart all the lies of this motherfucker's video because it's going to be a good time. Hell yeah, dog. Lock in, because there are so many lies. Remember, every lie that he says in his video is basically nodded to and parroted by Hasan, platforming his videos every time, reacting to them in full, letting them play with just his head bobbing and just basic approval shit. All right, you got to recognize everything he is saying, in my opinion, comes with the endorsement of Hasan Piker, terrorist propagandist himself. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's break apart 1,000 lies. Hope you're ready. It's definitely gonna be wild. So, the first lie, he talks about numbers.
It's the start of his video.
So originally, just to make this clear, he makes his entire video, it's the YouTubers who backed the genocide. He makes believe it's a video talking about Ethan Klein and all the people that are anti-Hasan. This basically is, Hasan is my daddy, he gives me lots of dick, and you guys hurt his feelings, so I'm gonna fight for him. That's basically what this video actually is. But essentially, the first 40 minutes of this video is just him talking about atrocities and sadnesses that happened to Palestinians and stuff. That is essentially what his video actually is, and he's basically saying if you are against Hasan, that means every atrocity that he brings up is something you must support. That is the framing and reference of his entire video, so let's see what he has to say.
So Ethan mentions a death toll figure of 40,000 Palestinian people.
Of course, if you compare the raw numbers, Gazans have lost a lot more than Israelis. 40,000 people have died, and neighborhoods have been completely flattened during this war.
The figure he cites is wrong. It's just wrong. Credible estimates have placed the full scale of the slaughter in Gaza at over 65,000 deaths.
Now, where the fuck did he find these credible estimates? I'm just curious. Where did he find these credible estimates? With all due respect, this one does not say over 65,000. He's nitpicking that Ethan said 40,000 when he says 64,000. The reality is, if you look it up, according to Al Jazeera, which, by the way, in case you're unaware, this is a Qatar-based propaganda news site. According to Al Jazeera, it was 50,000. Okay? So, again, if you want to nitpick numbers, we could nitpick numbers all you want. But, dog, you don't see someone say 40K and you're like, nah, 65K. And then in reality, even according to the actual terrorist propagandist websites, all right, this is according to Hamas themselves, it's 50,000. Now, in case you want more details, oh, that's a different tweet. I was going to show this later. Gaza fired 3 times as many rockets at Israel as Germany fired at Britain during World War II. That is a fact, in case you were curious. Now, the reason why this war is going on right now between Israel and Gaza altogether is because Gaza, Hamas terrorists broke into Israel, murdered 1,200 people, kidnapped hundreds of people, and also, in case you're not aware, because you probably didn't know this, since 2005, Hamas shot 11,000 missiles into populated Israeli cities, okay? I just want to put this into perspective for a second. 11,000 missiles. That's war crimes. You want to talk war crimes? It's not during a war shooting missiles into civilian territories. That's as war crimes as it gets. It doesn't get literally any worse than that. So I'm glad we're all on the same page here. That's kind of what happened. So to put this into perspective, this is new information. I'm sure Mr. Noah Samsen didn't want to mention this. Hamas admits it lied to the world about how many children and civilians died in Gaza. This is New York Post, all right? This isn't some Israel propaganda, all right? This is the actual New York Post that directly said this. Just want to make this clear. They actually admitted that they lied about how many people died in Gaza. Now, I don't know whose numbers he's taken, because even according to them, it's 50,000. And they later, after that count, admitted that they lied. In case you were curious, they also admitted they lied about how many specifically children and civilians died in Gaza. Now you have to realize, I am very sympathetic to every innocent Palestinian that dies. That said, Hamas is a terrorist organization. They are a terrorist organization. They are liars and murderers. You might not be aware of this, but as I've covered in my recent video on the Hamas Piker is Fuck franchise, there are protests in Gaza right now against Hamas. Palestinians are protesting against Hamas. Do you know what Hamas did? They murdered the Palestinians that protested the terrorists. Okay? Are we all on the same page? These are vicious monsters. They also lied about how many children died in this fight. Hamas updated their numbers and admitted that they made up the deaths of 1,182 children. Of course, no one's talking about that. That's a pretty big number, I think. But of course, no one's talking about that because, well, that doesn't necessarily fit the worldview necessarily. Now, to continue, this is a video that was just posted talking about this exactly. And let's see what we got.
Hamas admits they lied. Did you see this major headline? Yes, Hamas admitted that 72% of those killed are combat-aged men.
All right, so to be real, I want to make sure that we understand what Noah Samsen's argument is before we get too deep into it. So let's hear how he frames this.
Due to traumatic injury alone, with further projections that include indirect deaths in the hundreds of thousands, potentially over 10% of the population of Gaza. Ethan's brief and false citation leaves a lot of other things unmentioned, like how the vast majority of these deaths have been Palestinian civilians, including over 15,000 children.
All right, so his argument, the majority is civilians, and it's 15,000 children. That's the argument he's making here. All right, so back to this video. All right, now again, it is very sad. It is tragic that innocent people die. I'm just trying to be clear here. But anyway, let's see what we have to say with the new information that recently came out. I'm sure Noah Samsen will correct the record, unless, you know, he's just a terrorist propagandist.
Previously, Hamas claimed that 70% of casualties were women and children.
That's the numbers that Noah's going with. He just straight up, unabashedly believes the terrorists' numbers. Straight up believes the numbers of the terrorists. All right, just off the bat, that's retarded. But it gets so much worse.
You are hearing this insane lie correctly. So where is the media?
Yeah.
They were so quick to report the original lying Hamas figures, but are now completely silent on this massive correction.
Now, to be clear, this massive correction is the fact that it turns out 72% of deaths are combat-aged men. So when they made the argument that 70% are women and children, they lied. 72% are combat-aged men. That means 28% are women and children. Again, not defending any innocent person dying. It is very sad. However, let's put this into perspective for just a second here. This is not just a little lie. This is like one of the giant unhinged points of his argument. Now, you gotta realize why this war started altogether. And it's because Hamas murdered innocent people. Just the perspective, all right? Israel said they would end the war if they gave up the hostages. There are still currently 60 hostages held by Hamas terrorists being tortured and starved. So anyway,
2% of those killed of the war. With the truth being, Israel has indeed avoided many civilian casualties. In fact, even by Hamas's numbers, the civilian to militant casualty number is 3 to 1. This compares to a normal war where the ratio is usually 1 to 9. That's 9 civilians killed for every militant.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, this entire propaganda network that he's setting up here to defend terrorists by saying that 70% of the deaths are women and children, it's all a lie. All the ratios are bad. Literally all the ratios that he says are straight up wrong. Hamas are evil. They're evil terrorist fucks. They're monsters. And he goes out of his way to defend them every possible way.
Further, Hamas's new fatality list quietly drops 3,400 fully identified deaths listed in previous reports, including over 1,000 children.
Yeah, but Noah believes them. Noah just takes the terrorists at face value.
CNN, Washington Post, New York Times, AP. Where are you here?
Where are you, Noah Samsen? Where are you, Hamas Piker? Why aren't you going to talk about this obvious error that, you believe terrorists, and it turns out the terrorists lied? So Noah's stance of the vast majority being women and children is just a lie. 28% are women and children. Again, I'm very sad for casualties. Collateral damage is fucking awful shit that happens in every single war ever. It's awful. However, he's lying. He is lying. He's just straight up lying. So anyway, this is a lie that was also promoted by Hamas Piker himself. But don't worry, guys. We have a lot more lies to fucking tear apart. Next lie.
In late 2008 to 2009, Israel slaughtered.
What happened 2008 to 2009?
About 1,400 Palestinian people.
Israel slaughtered 1,400 Palestinian people.
300 of those were children. During
Why'd they do that?
this widespread massacre, Israel ordered people to shelter in schools. So,
but why? Wait, hold on. So why did Israel do this? He just talks about how Israel just goes in and murders all these innocent Palestinians, and he doesn't talk. Why would Israel decide to do that? Just like randomly? Or is it more likely that it's because between 2005 and 2007, Palestinian groups in Gaza fired 2,700 Qassam rockets into Israel? Maybe that's why Israel decided to engage in this operation. Again, it's very sad whenever an innocent person dies, but these things don't happen in a vacuum. And his phrasing of literally every single thing that happens is insane. Don't worry, guys. We got more atrocities to talk about.
or the Great March of Return,
which the Great March of Return. So what happened then?
Which were recognized by human rights organizations as being overwhelmingly peaceful.
So for the record, overwhelmingly peaceful means the majority of people at the protests were not violent. That's what overwhelmingly peaceful means. It doesn't mean that there was no violence at the protests. It means that the majority of people were peaceful. Like, another overwhelmingly peaceful protest that I can think of is January 6th. You know how basically every single person is losing their absolute dog shit mind? They're completely freaking out. They're losing their mind about January 6th. Well, that was an overwhelmingly peaceful protest. You know, only 15 people assaulted police officers, man. That was overwhelmingly peaceful. But yet, people are still bitching about that. So anyway, back to the overwhelmingly peaceful protest.
Israel fired on the peaceful crowds with sniper rifles, injuring thousands and killing hundreds.
Right. So they just fired into peaceful protests with sniper rifles and just murdered innocent people, like tons of them? Really? Well, interestingly enough, according to the Israeli military estimates, over 10,000 people gathered to join the day's protest, and they named that protest the Day of Rebellious Youth. For the first time in 5 weeks campaign, protesters reached the electrified border fence, having passed a barbed wire barrier. They were violently invading Israel. Israel soldiers fired shots, threw a hand grenade at a group of 12 men climbing a fence, hit several in the head, and it's very, very sad. I'm not saying it's not sad that innocent people are hurt, but these are people that are violently, illegally entering a country. And let me just remind you, October 7th, when they entered the country illegally, violently, they murdered 1,200 people. So anyway, the IDF launched tear gas. They opened fire with live ammunition at the crowd. They injured several people. Israeli military sources said at least two of them were armed. Whatever, if you don't want to believe the Israeli side, whatever you want to say. But if you actually look at the research that went into this and the UN that discussed this, it's true. It was an overwhelmingly peaceful protest. And that is why Israel didn't bomb them. That is why they used sniper fire when people actually violently crossed fences, tried to get into the country, and did shit like that. So, again, he framed this in potentially the most dishonest way you possibly could, to defend terrorists. Again, it's just bro likes terrorists or something. It's kind of wild how that's the reality here. He just likes terrorists, I guess. Anyway, don't worry, guys. We got more.
This escalation since October 7th to an extreme degree. IDF snipers are intentionally targeting children for...
There is no evidence that IDF snipers are directly targeting children. Like, I tried to look it up, but there's no way to find that there is evidence versus there isn't evidence. There were children that were shot in the head, and it's a fucking tragedy and a nightmare. However, there is no evidence that they are directly targeting children.
Execution by shooting them in the skull and in the heart. Healthcare workers have testified to seeing Israeli drones hovering outside of hospitals, picking off children. That's where they're shooting them. And
why do you think they're using drones and they're not just bombing the entire building? Why do you think they're using drones to kill children instead of just bombing the building? Realistically, it's because they're trying not to bomb the entire building. Yeah, Israel has the firepower to level Gaza. I'm not saying that to change anyone's opinion on anything, but in World War II, when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, America dropped 2 nuclear bombs on Japan and killed 300,000 people, okay? Israel has the firepower, and they're not doing that. They are using drones trying to pick off specific terrorists. Now, you're probably wondering why they even targeted hospitals altogether. So, interestingly enough, Hasan has a very similar opinion on the human shields argument. Very interesting human shields argument by Hasan, so let's see what he has to say.
What do I say to inform people when they say Hamas is using schools and hospitals as meat shields? They're psychotic. Ask them if it would be okay to blow up a school in a hostage situation if a school shooter was to go into a school and hold...
Yeah, but the obvious difference is the fact that the Hamas terrorists directly use schools as their bases of operations to make Israel hesitant to bomb them. Remember, Hamas is a terrorist organization. They are not an army that's following any form of realistic human rights rule. They violate the Geneva Convention all the time because they're terrorists and they're monstrous.
Hold people hostage. Is it okay to blow up the entire school? And is it okay to blow up the entire city block?
Yeah, this is obviously like wildly retarded.
Matter of fact, absolutely zero people will say yes to that. Why? Because they intrinsically understand that those children at that school are innocent, but
yeah, but this is like a completely different story, like 100% a different story. If a terrorist is going to use human shields and continue bombing your people, you will do whatever you can to kill that terrorist, and unfortunately, there is collateral damage, says Mr. Condom Head over here. Now, in case you wanted actual evidence to this shit, because it's despicable, during the 2023 Israel-Hamas war, Israel stated that Hamas has strategically placed portions of its military tunnel system and command network beneath civilian infrastructure, including Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital. Israel released what it said were videos of confessions of 2 alleged members of Hamas that said that they are using hospitals as means of protection from IDF strikes. whether you believe it or not. The Israel army accused Hamas of sending women and children to a compound to act as human shields. And, like, literally a compound that was being invaded, they sent hundreds of women and children there directly. I could keep covering this. This is an actual entire article on Wikipedia where they just talk about all the different times that they're directly using human shields. I don't even need to go that far. So this is Hamas using over 100 women and children as human shields in Gaza, according to Israel. And the reason for this, the reason why they say this, is because they sent a large group of women and children against the IDF who were attacking a compound of Gaza. They were attacking a terrorist compound, and all of a sudden 100 innocent people show up at that compound. Like, that's not human shields? What about this? How Hamas places rockets next door to classrooms and explosives under girls' bedrooms. There are direct videos of this. It's mind-blowing. To argue against the human shields argument, this is a fact. Alright, these are the weapons, right? These are terrorist weaponry. That's pretty fucked up, man. Alright. Alright, here's the instructions for manufacturing explosives. And look at that! Upstairs, baby! Little girl's room. So yes, absolutely. It is a tragedy that this happens, but the fault of the people that are killed in these situations, the fault is on the terrorists that are using a little girl's bedroom as their base of operations. Like, what the Schmidt? It's insanity, bruh. It's crazy. Holy shit. Alright, again, here's another example. This is after Hamas terrorists are hiding among them and using them as human shields. This, by the way, this is a new video. This just happened last week. Alright? So, this is a kid, a Palestinian kid, that is yelling at the Hamas people for using him directly as a human shield. He's crying and he's saying, why would you do this? He's saying, Hamas, may God curse you, you son of a bitch. All right? Yeah, anyway, so this is like the Palestinian kids yelling at Hamas for using them as human shields. But if that's not enough evidence for you, here's another fun one. All right, this one's great. Check this out. This is a school in Gaza. Right, he's saying we're inside a school. Alright, look, it's a regular school. Alright, look, they got regular stuff, bro.
פוסטרים על גוף האדם, מעבדות, לוח, מיקרוסקופ שם.
Microscope, chalkboards. Just a regular school.
לצאת מהכיתה, לצעוד מטר אחד, ובחדר הסמוך, מחסן תחמושת.
Yeah, so this is next door to that classroom. Like, are we on the same page? Like, there was no cuts in this video. Like, he walked from this classroom directly into the fucking terrorist armory. Like, this is like a Call of Duty map, bro. What is happening? What is going on? So when you have dishonest fucking retards like Hasan Piker and like Noah Samsen saying that, yeah, there's just directly on purpose targeting children because they just want to kill children. Like, what are you talking about? Here's another one. Look at this video. Here's a Hamas terrorist dragging a child. Like an actual human shield. This is like the clip from Deadpool. Look at this shit. He grabs this kid and he just runs with him. This isn't what is happening? Bro, this is the equivalent of like duct taping a freaking child to your chest and running across the street. These are monsters, okay? These are monstrous terrorist monster pieces of shit. Like, dude, and there's infinite videos of this. Like, tell me, right? This kid dressed up like a Hamas terrorist or whatever, he doesn't know that he's being used as a human shield. But he absolutely is being used as a human shield. Absolutely. If this guy gets bombed, well, at least they have the argument to say, well, Israel's targeting innocent babies. These are terrorists. They will propagandize you in any way they possibly can. Okay? Again, not defending every action ever taken on behalf of Israel. Not defending individual soldiers that have committed crimes, as I'm sure it happens. There are good Jews and bad Jews. There's good Arabs and bad Arabs. There's good of every race, and there's bad of that race too. This is just reality of life. So this isn't like some sort of blanket statement, good, bad, bad, good. Terrorists, these are terrorists and vicious monsters. When Trump says these are bad guys and they should be bombed, well, realistically, he's so right. And you gotta get rid of all these motherfuckers. They're monstrous pieces of shit. And they are factually using human shields. This is like not a debatable topic. This is a completely real thing. And speaking of other war crimes, because one of the bigger arguments is that, you know, Israel targets journalists and stuff like that, which, again, I'm sure it happens from time to time. I'm absolutely sure it happens. But when you put into perspective that this guy over here is a Al Jazeera journalist, right? Al Jazeera is that Qatar propagandist news site I told you about. This is a guy named Hasan Shabat. He's wearing a press vest. He is an Al Jazeera journalist. Killing journalists is a war crime. Well, it turns out that this Hasan Shabat fellow, actually, in case you were curious, is an actual sniper for Hamas. This guy is a terrorist sniper, okay? This is not a journalist. This is an actual sniper terrorist. This is not just a terrorist, any old terrorist, but this is actually one of the terrorists that directly invaded Israel on October 7th. Directly jumped into it. Like, this is him. This is the guy on October 7th posting himself going into Israel to kill civilians. Okay, so this guy is a terrorist. It is a war crime for a terrorist to be wearing a press vest. So you gotta realize, when you hear in the news, journalist killed, there might sometimes be context. Sometimes. Now, this guy, Hasan Shabat, well, he's actually, it's a lot more complicated than you might think, because that guy's actually a friend of Hasan's.
Israel killed 2 journalists yesterday. One of them is someone who I frequently talk to get updates. He was a contributor to Al Jazeera. I've talked about him before. His name is Hasan Shabat.
Get a load of that. Hasan Piker's actual friend is a Hamas terrorist. Damn, no one could have seen this coming. This is one of the twists of all time. So anyway, I hope that was able to potentially put it into slightly more perspective for you guys, in case you were curious. When he goes and he directly says that, you know, you're murdering, they are purposefully murdering children by the fact that, you know, children have died, and it is tragic that children have died. That is insanity, complete insanity. In fact, and it doesn't end, this is Hamas terrorists that actually do murder children. This is Hamas terrorists carrying the coffin of a baby that they murdered with their bare hands while they have their own children watching and celebrating this entire event. I've covered this in more detail in the Hasan Piker's 140% fuck video in this franchise. But so if you want to talk about someone that actually does target civilians and actually does target children, it's the Hamas terrorists that this guy is trying so hard to defend. So trying to put this into perspective a little bit. So far, every single claim that Noah Samsen has made against everyone, like me, Ethan Klein, Mutahar, all the people, every single claim he's made is a claim that Hamas is guilty of. They are the ones that target children. They are the ones committing war crimes. They are the ones targeting civilians. Fact. That is a known fact. But anyway, moving on to the next lie, because I felt like that was a relatively important one to debunk, and there's infinite of them. You don't understand how many of them there are. All right, so welcome to the next one.
It's about 25 miles long and 5 miles wide.
Right, that's the size of Gaza, 25 by 5 miles. It's pretty small.
It is one of the most densely populated areas on Earth. It is in this area that Israel has dropped equivalent to that of multiple nuclear weapons. Israel has...
Right, so according to geopolitical analyst Noah Samsen, because Gaza is only 25 by 5 miles, Israel has dropped the equivalent of nuclear weapons. All right, that's his opinion. Nuclear weapons. That's what he has to say. I'm just letting you know, he is gunning up until he gets to the point in his video where he directly says that Israel is genocidal and you have to wipe out all of Israel. That's what he's building up to, okay? So I hope you're ready. So his logic is nuclear weapons. Now, I'm going to tell you some stats that Noah Samsen probably doesn't want you to see. This is the Gaza population. So Gaza's 2025 population, remember the war started in 2023, all right? At the end of 2023, that's when the war started. Gaza's 2025 population is 800 and whatever. In 1950, it was this. Gaza has grown by 22,000 in the last year. So, over the course of the war, where Israel is dropping, according to Noah, the equivalent of nuclear bombs, Gaza's population has grown. That's definitely one of the moments of all time. I don't know. I saw this meme. Thought this meme while I was doing research on this specific question. I saw this meme. It was pretty crazy. Gaza population has increased by 2% since October 7th. Since the war started, there are more people, more Gazans in Gaza than before the war started. And again, you could ask Grok if you want. Yes, Gaza's population is growing even now in middle of the war. It is actually growing. You can even ask the AI. What was the population in Gaza in 2022? All right, the war started in 2023. Well, yeah, AI. Okay, he doesn't. He's sleeping. Come on, AI. Answer the question. You know you wanna. There we go. All right, so the population in 2022 was approximately 2.1 to 2.2 million. All right. What is the current population in Gaza? All right. Just curious what the AI will say. This is not something that I prompted earlier. I just felt like it would be fun to look at this on, live, just out of curiosity. I don't know why it's taking so long to answer the question. Okay, I have no idea what's taking so long. Normally it takes like 2 seconds. Hello? Dude? Bro, did someone DDoS Twitter or some shit? I feel like someone DDoSed Grok. I broke Grok. I don't know, maybe I broke Grok. All right, well, that ruined my whole thing, I guess, because come on, bro, it's not happening. All right, you know what? We'll use ChatGPT. We'll use ChatGPT. What was the population in Gaza in 2022? All right. Oh my God, stay logged out. All right, 2.3 million. Oh my God, dude, they all give you different numbers. What's the population now? Again, 2.1 million. And this includes 100,000 Palestinians fleeing, also dead. It's a whole large conversation. Anyway, oh, it woke up. Okay, we're here. It is literally here. 2.1. So, anyway, ultimately, the population has, it seems, decreased in this, according to Noah Samsen, in this genocide that is taking place. However, realistically, saying that it's the equivalent of multiple nuclear bombs dropping is fucking retarded. Like, actually fucking retarded. I'm not trying to propagandize here. I'm just trying to tell you the honest truth that terrorists bad. I know it's a controversial statement these days. Terrorists actually bad. Terrorists, not good. Not good terrorism. Terrorism, not good at all. Now, later in this video, he has this entire segment where he basically says all Israelis are evil and deserve to get killed. Remember, this is something that Hasan reacts to this guy, okay? He reacts to him at face value and just plays his goddamn videos. So, Here's the next fucking retard moment.
The Israeli government. And the same with the other side. Like, you are allowed to hate on the people who actually kill people and not hate the innocent adults and children that are being killed from both sides. This is a popular framing among liberals and liberal outlets that we should
the liberals, it's not left enough for Noah Samsen.
Separate the Israeli people from the actions of their government. While there are some examples from the past where this may be true, such as the case of the American public's attitudes towards the end of the Vietnam War, which diverged from their government, the same cannot be said in the case of Israel.
So he says that every single person in Israel is evil. Because remember how he's framed this war until here. They're maliciously targeting babies on purpose. It's like dropping nuclear weapons. It's the equivalent of dropping actual nuclear bombs. They just go in there and murder people all the time, right? And this is not just the government's fault. It is not just soldiers. No, it is every single person in Israel. That's his claim, all right? Bro is an actual genocidal freak, okay? This guy is the genocidal freak. I'm just saying. Now, in case you were curious, this is a clip that was posted on the news and Sky News in Australia. This was posted, I think, 2 days ago. So let's see what they have to say here.
Absolutely. Now, Ami, you yourself have been filming in Palestinian territories in the West Bank city of Ramallah, and you asked in this next clip questions of young men about their thoughts on October 7. Let's see if they have learned anything from the catastrophe that has befallen Gazans since that attack.
All right, so that's a pretty good question, right? It's a pretty good question. They asked people in Ramallah, which is a Palestinian-controlled area, absolutely, asked them questions in regards to what they thought about what happened on October 7th and what happened to Gaza. Let's see what they have to say.
Are you proud of October 7th?
He's pro, and he says God bless them and may they have victory.
All right, so he says he is pro the terrorists, and he then says God bless the terrorists. Just in perspective, if we're going by random street interview bullshit, well, then you get some crazy shit.
Are you proud of what happened October 7th?
Of course.
Of course, they all say instant of course from all of them. October 7th, let me just remind you, Hamas terrorists jump into Israel, murder innocent people, rape them, murder them, kidnap them, just men, women, children. Let's just put this into perspective.
Of course. Perfect. Are you willing to have what happened in Gaza happen here?
Yes, it's worth it.
And then they say, not only do they support the terrorist attack, but they also support, and for me this is the crazy twist, they actually support, they said it was worth it. It was worth what happened to Gaza, and they would do it, because it's a noble sacrifice.
Sacrifice worth paying.
What? Holy! Again, street interviews, not a great metric to understand whether people are genocidal or not. But the fact that Noah Samsen is gonna go out to try to sugarcoat and nitpick exact people that'll directly be, when Israel is looking bad, absolutely, the entire nation, the whole country, kill them all. But he turns a very wholesome blind eye to this kind of situation. In case you're curious, they said that it was worth what happened. Remember, it was worth what happened. This was Gaza before October 7th. All right. We all see the videos of what it looks like now with all the rubbles and all that shit. But this was Gaza before. All right. Now it's rubble. But anyway, yeah. In case you were curious what it did look like before October 7th. A lot of people think that before October 7th it was like a giant concentration camp. That does not seem like it was the case. However, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter because we got our boy here. We got Mr. Noah Samsen spitting facts. But don't worry, he has more facts to spit because at 1840 in his video, he does some street interviews. And I'll show you some street interviews too. But he does some street interviews. And he found some pretty unhinged people out there. So, hell yeah, dude. So this is his evidence that all of Israel needs to be wiped out, in my opinion. That's what he's saying.
Who gives a shit?
Have been killed in
Go back to the beginning.
genocidal fervor among Israelis.
All right, again, I can show you the whole clip.
Of their rotten society. Another way to get
it's a rotten society.
To handle in the seemingly ubiquitous genocidal fervor among
it's a genocidal freak country, according to Noah Samsen.
Israelis is by just talking to them.
How many
you talk to Israelis, you will notice that's just it.
civilians have been killed in Gaza, from what you know?
Who gives a shit?
Okay, but don't you feel...
Just to be clear, this video was taken a few days after, again, I'm not defending anything that these street interview people say, but just for perspective, these street interviews were taken literally a few days after the October 7th terrorist massacre, all right? All these people lost family, probably. I lost family on October 7th. So you have to realize there are not a lot of Jews out there. So basically everyone lost people during this terrorist attack. So you gotta reckon, like, she's on the verge of crying right now. Just trying to put it into perspective, just for a second, all right? So, holy shit.
Feel like, for example, children?
Children grow up to be Arabs. I read the numbers last week. My memory died and went to heaven. I don't think children should suffer, but they're always casualties. And since they do a lot of pruervu, that is a natural result.
חפים מפשע נהרגו בעזה.
טוב, אז כנראה שנעצור.
את לא רוצה לענות על זה?
Again, you gotta realize these are street interviews taken a few days after a massive terrorist attack. Again, you ask people what right after 9/11 what they thought should be done. All right, that's the equivalent of this. All right.
תודה.
אוקיי, אפשר לשאול למה?
כי אני לא חושבת שיש מישהו שהוא חף פשע שם.
אבל ילדים אבל, נגיד.
הילדים מסכנים, אין ספק, אבל הם לא יגדלו להיות ילדים חפים מפשע, לצערי.
Most of the kids there that are getting killed, I never support little children dying, you know? I never want it. But most of them will grow up not only supporting Hamas, which is a crime by itself, but joining them, which is the worst of the worst.
בפשע נהרגו בעזה.
לא, זה גם לא מעניין אותי.
לא? למה?
לא מעניין אותי, אני הייתי עד 7...
Right, so what she's saying is, until October 7th, she was very pro-Palestinian.
באוקטובר האמנתי בשלום ובשיח ובדו-שיח. אחרי זה הבנתי שאין לי מי לדבר.
And you realize this interview is happening, like, pretty much right after what actually happened, the giant terrorist attack. So, again, these are people in emotional states, and that's one. And two, bro, you want to genocide an entire country because of a street interview compilation? What? What are you even talking about?
כולם שם מחבלים, לצערי הרב.
אבל ילדים, כאילו.
לא, אני אומרת בכנות, לא מעניין אותי.
There is no such thing as Palestinians. They're Arabs who have many countries to flee to and nobody wants them to. But if we do call them Palestinians, their parents use them as human shields to gain sympathy. The natural instinct of a Jewish mother is to protect her child. Palestinian women do not have that.
These people know that they're on camera and that these remarks will be posted on the internet.
He knows that these people were literally recorded a few days after the biggest terrorist attack from genocidal freaks. You realize that Hamas wants to murder all Jews, right? You realize that's what happened? If they would have gotten their way, they would have murdered every single Jew in the entire country. Just trying to put this into perspective. So this guy takes a couple of street interviews and uses that to extrapolate that an entire society needs to get wiped out.
Internet or shared on the mainstream news. This is normal to them. This is normal in their society.
Yeah, right. Which means what?
Which is a testament to the fact that their society is not normal.
Right. So this is him once again directly advocating for essentially saying their entire society is not normal. Wipe them all out. That's what he's saying. He's doing it in different words and manipulative language, but that's what he's saying because he saw some street interviews. Now, because this is the most bad faith thing probably in the history of time, Get ready, ladies and gentlemen, because there's a YouTuber named Think Before You Sleep, and he actually showed the full interviews. He cut out the street interviews that made Israel look good. Oh my God.
I'm aware that Noah loves to misrepresent people, and I'm guessing that he didn't expect anyone to actually go fact check the material that he used, which is reasonable. A lot of creators are lazy. But since I actually watched the full video, I know that Noah basically only showed the most inflammatory things that were said. If you actually watch the video, you can see multiple Israelis sympathizing with the Palestinians. Here's one of them.
Free Palestine from Hamas, and don't hate us Jews, we're really nice people, and we love life. We want peace.
We just want peace, love, and rock and roll.
Yeah.
I wonder why Noah decided to not include this clip. Crazy how he didn't include this one. What a bad faith piece of shit retard. Oh my God. Bro, holy.
Okay, wait, and you're willing to have peace with Palestinians?
Yeah, of course.
Yes, anytime.
Anytime.
Send the
with anybody, anywhere.
Now.
If they want peace, we want it.
Yeah, you may not be aware of this, but, why did Noah cut that out of his video? Kinda weird. Now, you gotta realize, Israel tried to do a two-state solution with Palestinians 4 separate times. Every single time they tried to do it, it was the Palestinian side that shut down the option for a two-state solution, because they don't want a two-state solution. First of all, it's never gonna work. Second of all, they don't want a two-state solution. They want this, you know, the thing that they directly say what they want. They say what they want. Who are we to not believe Hamas?
اليوم أنت تستطيع أن تقول أننا وصلنا إلى حالة الردع والدفاع عن الأرض المحتلة. لما نتكلم أن احنا جيش القدس ونتكلم عن معركة الوعد الآخرة لا نتكلم فيها لأننا سنحرر أرض.
He just wants to liberate it, baby.
فقط. ولكن لأننا نؤمن بأن ما قاله نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم عندما قال زوى الله تعالى لي الدنيا وفي لفظ آخر الأرض فرأيت مشارقها.
God, he's so lucky that God brought Jews closer to him, so that he could kill them so much easier.
ومغاربها وأن ملك أمتي سيبلغ ما زوي لي منه. إنه 510 مليون كيلومتر مربع وهي مساحة الكرة الأرضية سوف تعيش حالة لا ظلم فيها ولا قهر فيها ولا.
All right, no oppression, no treachery, no Zionism, no treacherous Christianity. He wants to wipe all of them out. All those Zionists and those treacherous Christians. Yeah, that's what he's saying.
خيانة ولا صلة ولا مسيحية غادرة ولا قتل بهذه الحجم هذه الجرائم التي ترتكب بحق الشعب الفلسطيني والشعب العربي في كل الدول العربية.
Yeah, so anyway, so that's the person that's the genocidal freak, if you ask me. In fact, there's more genocidal freaks.
ومسرانا وأقصانا ومدننا وقرانا بإذن الله سبحانه وتعالى كل ذلك توطئة لإقامة الخلافة الإسلامية القادمة ولذلك أيها الإخوة والأخوات نحن على أبواب دورة حضارية إسلامية عالمية كروية بإذن الله وقودها هو غزة رأس حربتها.
Right, so he's saying that Gaza is going to be the spearhead of reforming the entire world under Islam. Are we all on the same page here? Like, these are the genocidal freaks. This is a Hamas terrorist, all right? Realistically, they don't want peace. The Hamas terrorists. They are terrorists. They are monsters. There's a reason why every single country in the Western world defines them as terrorists. Now, Hasan and Noah Samsen, they support this guy.
يؤتى بهم لفيفا إلى فلسطين ليكون الشرف لفلسطين وأهل فلسطين ومن ورائهم أمة الإسلام في القضاء على الشر المستطيل.
The honor of annihilating the evil gang of Jews. That's our goat. That's our guy. That's Hamas. They say what they say. They are literally not mincing words. I don't know why Noah Samsen doesn't believe them. Realistically, it's because he's a retard. But they're just saying their opinions pretty upfront. Hamas clarifies that it meant to start the type of war where they get to do whatever they want and no one fights back. Thank you, Babylon B, for the clarification. Now I understand exactly what we could be doing here. Hell yeah, baby. So now let's all come to terms with what just happened. Noah Samsen took out of context street interviews, not including the ones that, you know, fit his cause. And he took these street interviews to essentially say, because of these 6 people on the street, the entire society is a deranged, unhinged, genocidal society and should get wiped out. Are we all on the same page? That's what he said? Yep. So this is Hasan, by proxy, by platforming every single one of his videos uncritically, essentially promoting this idea of, hell yeah, wipe out Jews, right? We're all on the same page? I'm sure we're all on the same page. Yeah, I don't know how Hasan is the biggest leftist political streamer around the world, and he gets away with this shit, but he does, and someone has to document it, I guess. Anyway, next lie from our favorite propagandist, Noah Samsen.
Prisoner. The Israeli public reacted in uproar, not because of what they were alleged to have done, but because they were potentially going to be punished for it.
Right, this is allegations that an Israeli soldier raped a Palestinian prisoner. Which, by the way, if it happened, it's fucking awful, all right? 100% condemning that. It's awful. Should not happen. Anyway.
Protests were held outside of the prison, attended by top Israeli officials. Mainstream Israeli news channels brought on one of the alleged rapist soldiers for interviews, supporting him and his right to kill and rape Palestinian hostages.
So this is a lie. This is just straight up a lie. I don't even know what to do with this amount of lies. Like, they're just endless lies. It's endless lies.
Again, this wasn't some...
First of all, it's an allegation. There is no fact. That's one. Just to be clear, that is just not a fact. It is an allegation. Also, in case you're curious, he frames it that this is the actual argument here.
Extremist fluke. It was reflected in broader polling of the Israeli public. According to a poll taken around that time, 65% of Israeli Jews oppose criminal prosecution for soldiers suspected of raping Palestinian detainees.
So again, he says suspecting, that's one. And two, don't worry, we're gonna get there. I'm pretty sure it was proven false. I'm sure, yeah, I think even Hamas admits it was not true. But anyway, we're gonna get to there in a minute. Don't worry, it gets crazier.
And 47% of Jewish Israelis answered that Israel does not need to abide by international law.
I'm gonna show you the actual context. He's just going crazy here.
And maintain moral values in the war. Simply put, it's a genocidal society, top to bottom.
So that's his argument. It's a genocidal, top to bottom society. In other words, it should all get wiped out. One of his pieces of evidence is the fact that, in his words, I'll put it in his words.
News channel. One more example that I found particularly striking was the right to rape protests.
So he calls this the right to rape protests. It's shocking to me that you even have to go crazy over this, because there were no right to rape protests. That is a straight up lie, and he bought it from here, from Al Jazeera. Literal Qatar propaganda. Like, what the fuck are you supposed to say? Al Jazeera reports it as Israeli protesters rally for the right to rape prisoners. But that's not at all what happened. That is not at all what happened, okay? Listen, you can criticize a million things, but at least criticize legitimate things that actually happened. This is not what happened at all. You can read the actual articles from anyone that's not a direct terrorist propagandist. Ultra-right-wing Israeli nationalists stormed 2 military facilities late Monday protesting the detention and questioning of 9 IDF soldiers that were suspected of raping and abusing a Palestinian prisoner whose injuries were so bad he had to be hospitalized. A, it's allegations without evidence. B, the protests about this were not for the right to rape anyone. That's retarded. Like, wildly retarded. And definitely not at all what happened. Also, in case you're curious, they lied. They said, this is the tweet that he showed. This is what Noah Samsen showed. 65% of Israelis believe IDF soldiers should be able to rape Palestinian prisoners. That is a direct lie. Direct mistranslation and lie as to what happened. Reuters, who by the way is a pretty anti-Israel news site, fact check Israel opinion poll mistranslated as saying that soldiers should rape prisoners. That's not at all what happened. It was just a poll arguing about the different levels of punishment that should be done. That was the argument. So the screenshot shows 65% of Jewish Israelis answers they should be punished at a command level. All right. Then the next percent that criminal trial, 14 said I don't know. Whatever you want to say, none of the answers in the screenshot mention rape or Palestinian prisoners. This is taking a complete insane story wildly out of context. And the craziest part is there were many times that they made these claims. This is from Kevin Vuong, all right? Important fellow, I guess. Al Jazeera admits the story of IDF rapes in the Gaza hospital was fabricated. All content related to the allegations have been deleted because it was actually just proven not true. I guess you should never trust terrorist propaganda or something because it turns out, how do you translate punish as rape? Yeah, they translated punish as rape because they're terrorist propagandists. Al Jazeera is a terrorist propaganda news site based in Qatar. Like, no one trusts Al Jazeera, except, of course, for Noah Samsen and Hasan Piker. But anyway, the point is, if you want to actually go crazy, the story here, they claimed that there was a massive rape situation, and they admitted that that was not true here in this specific instance. But don't worry, because Noah Samsen is going to use this as an example that it is a top-to-bottom genocidal society and should be wiped out. It was absolutely an intentional mistranslation. There's no two ways about it. That's for sure. He's making the argument you wipe out all people in Israel now because it's a terrorist society. All of Israelis. And somehow this just basically gets parroted on Twitch with no pushback at all. Hasan just straight up puts his videos on and walks out of the room. That's my guy. Anyway, he makes some other pretty wild claims in this video once we're debunking the lies.
Differences in coverage, language, and framing when compared with other groups.
All right, so now he's making the difference between the Gaza conflict and the Ukraine conflict into why they're covered differently.
First 100 days after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, 262 children were killed. In the first 100 days of Israel's assault on Gaza, more than 10,000 children were killed. The true number is likely much higher, but mentions of child deaths and related terms were 33.4% higher for Ukraine than for Gaza. During this time frame,
so they talk about Ukraine more than they're talking about Gaza. All right, okay.
CNN mentioned child victims of the war 2,446 times for Ukraine versus 2,110 times for Gaza, and MSNBC mentioned child victims of the Ukraine war 1,775 times versus 1,522 times for Gaza. This means that for each child death from
he's calculating. Now listen to the way he does this calculation. Essentially, there were the same amount of reports, right? Did you hear what he said?
Versus 1,522 times for Gaza, or
Right, it was 1,522 times for Gaza.
1,770.
And it was 1,700 times for Ukraine. That's pretty close. I think we can all be on the same page when they say, if they talk about this 1,700 times, and they talk about the other one 1,500 times, that's pretty close. Watch how he twists this.
5 times versus 1,522 times for Gaza. This means that for each child death from Ukraine, children receive the equivalent of 16.1 mentions on air, whereas children in Gaza receive the equivalent of 0.36 mentions.
His argument is because more children died in Gaza, even though they were talked about the same amount of times, statistically, each child in Gaza got less airtime than each direct child in Ukraine. We on the same page? We on the same page? This is the most bad faith possible framing you possibly can. Like, what are you even talking about? It lists the dead people, but he's upset because statistically, each dead person is talked about for less than the other people because, like, it's retarded. It's an actual retarded argument. It makes absolutely no sense at all.
MSNBC did not run a single segment in the first 100 days that focused specifically and exclusively on the plight of children in Gaza. MSNBC ran over a dozen segments focusing specifically on the plight of Ukrainian children during the first 100 days.
Right. So first of all, more people died in Ukraine than in Gaza. That's one. And two, and I think this is a more important topic, who started the 2023 Russia versus Ukraine war, and who started the 2023 Israel versus Gaza war? Russia, Hamas. These are gigantically different situations that he is saying it's essentially the same exact thing. Like, I don't even understand how you could possibly like talk about this like they are complete and utter equal cases. He's like, bro, people dying equals people dying, and it's all the same, and there's no nuance. Well, you know, it's bad. I agree. I've said this the entire time. This is crazy. Like, holy shit, man. I don't even know what I'm supposed to say about this. It's unreal. It's insane. But don't worry, there's more lies. We're whittling down, sort of. Don't worry, it gets so much better. Next lie is at 26:55.
As prisoners, whereas the IDF soldiers, that is, actual militants that were captured by Hamas on October 7th, are referred to as hostages. One of the greatest tweets of all time that I've ever seen described the capture of an IDF terrorist during October 7th as him being kidnapped from a tank. Kidnapped from a tank. Kidnapped from a tank. Coverage.
So obviously, Noah Samsen here is joking about the fact that how do you get kidnapped from a tank? If you're kidnapped from a tank, then you're obviously a combatant. So how could you be kidnapped? Because
October 7th as him being kidnapped from a tank.
Because you're obviously kidnapped from a tank. How can you be kidnapped from a tank? He's obviously a combatant. The answer is this happened on October 7th, when the terrorist attack took place. This was a guy in a tank for like generic reasons, not contributing to any sort of war because the war didn't start. October 7th is when terrorists invaded Israel and kidnapped him from a tank where he happened to be This is literal. Like, believe it or not, this is a literal thing that happened. That this isn't propaganda. This is literally literal. Like, I don't even know how to put it. There was no war at this point. This is how the war started. Anyway, don't worry, there's more, obviously.
Officials. Probably the most insane example of this sort of thing is the following headline, once again from the New York Times. Lebanon's ceasefire appears to hold despite Israeli strike. If Israel struck, they violated the ceasefire. Yeah,
but why did Israel strike? I mean, do you think that they just struck randomly because they felt like murdering random people? Or is it because it targeted militants, terrorists, by the way, in Lebanon, actual Hezbollah terrorists, heading to a rocket facility, and it kept the ceasefire, and no one is keen to return to full-scale fighting. Again, it's very wildly dishonest framing, even when he actually does do this shit. But don't worry, there's even more wildly dishonest framing about to pop up here.
No nuance in genocide. There's nothing progressive about genocide. This tendency to falsely frame a genocide with neutrality will often slip into outright endorsement. Recall Israel's pager terrorist attack in Lebanon when they detonated over 1,000 pagers rigged with explosive.
All right, so yeah, that was crazy when that happened. If we all remember what took place.
This was a widespread mass terrorist attack that indiscriminately targeted civilians and left hundreds dead and permanently injured. And
look at how he's framing this, okay? He said it's an indiscriminate terrorist attack. These are pagers that literally were owned by terrorists, okay? It literally was owned by terrorists. They were Hezbollah terrorist pagers that detonated, killing terrorists primarily. Yes, unfortunately, there were collateral damage. There was. You know, war actually sucks. I fully agree. War bad. Hopefully, we could enter a society with no wars. No wars would be great, but they literally blew up terrorist pagers. Yes. What the fuck? What are we talking about?
This was a widespread mass terrorist attack that indiscriminately targeted...
How do you say indiscriminate when it is history's most discriminate attack? It is not. It is the opposite of indiscriminate when they directly targeted terrorists. You don't realize that Hezbollah, the terrorist that they targeted, I mean, he supports killing Israelis, so he's not. This isn't the right argument. But Hezbollah contributed to the deaths of 600,000 people in Syria. 600,000 people in Syria. All right, he is defending those guys. What? What is even happening? Well, there is no possible way you can frame this. It's unreal. What? And even if you ask Grok, because this one's fun, was Israel's pager attack on Hezbollah indiscriminate? And he's like, it involved the detonation of rigged pagers used by Hezbollah operatives. Whether it was indiscriminate depends on how one interprets the facts. All right, well, evidence suggests that the attack was highly targeted, actually. Again, you could figure out whatever you want. It is the opposite of indiscriminate. It is incredibly discriminate. It was directly targeting terrorists. It is probably the most discriminate attack ever in the history of time. It's crazy. It's actually unreal. And anyone that has common sense knows that when you blow up literal terrorist pagers, that is the most discriminate attack ever. But he frames it as indiscriminate terrorism or something. It's great. But anyway, my favorite parts of his video is where he misreads the UN reports on purpose. So here's where he straight up denies Hamas atrocities.
To talk about is just atrocity propaganda. One of the primary justifications for the genocide in Gaza is that members of Hamas are not just militants, but that they are monsters.
They are monsters. They are actually monsters. I completely agree. He's just supporting terrorists. This is what he's doing right now. You have to recognize he is supporting Hamas terrorists. They are monsters.
Pure evil motivated by nothing more than the sadistic hatred of Jews.
Well, which is what they say themselves. I didn't say it. That is what Hamas says. As I've showed you earlier, Hamas themselves wants to murder every Jew and every traitorous Christian, as they put it. All right? So yes, they are monsters. Yeah, they're monsters. Terrorist monsters.
This narrative has been fueled by stories of horrors that supposedly took place on October 7th. Hamas burned babies in ovens.
They burnt babies alive?
They put children and burned them to death.
They cut the breasts off of women.
400 women shot in the genitals, their breasts cut off as terrorists played with their bloody breasts like a football.
They cut off the breasts of women and throw them around.
They beheaded 40 babies.
I never really thought that I would see and have confirmed pictures of terrorists beheading children.
They behead children.
They cut the fetus out of the womb of a pregnant woman. They committed a campaign of systematized mass rape.
There is no justification for collective rape.
What happened on October 7th was mass, systematic, planned rape and genital mutilation of women.
All of these claims are false, complete fabrication.
And so he, the master, denies it. All right? I just had to play that whole clip to show you what he denies.
Full stop. No credible evidence has been provided for any of them. Many were
What is he talking about? He is insane, absolutely crazy. So he shows this UN report, and he says that the commission reviewed the testimonies obtained by journalists and the Israeli police concerning rape, but it has not been able to independently verify such allegations. Why? Due to a lack of access to the victims. So you have to realize this was a 2-week investigation that was done by the UN, and they did not, in this post number 26, he said that they were unable to verify it because they didn't access the victims. You know, there was a war going on and stuff. So because they were unable to access the victims, they couldn't verify reports of sexualized torture. That's not saying it's not true. These victims, by the way, were dead and buried, and they didn't want to, you know, put their corpse and shit. There are also gore sites that they directly videoed themselves doing this and uploaded this. You can go to Hamas.com and you can see some of the most unbelievable, awful bullshit ever. In fact, I am going to do something that will break your worldview, because Hasan Piker also agrees with this. Yeah, you see, the UN report supports this. I've showed you so many clips of Hasan saying there no rapes happened on October 7th. You ready, guys? So, in this same report, right, this is the report. This is what he said. This was the actual shit that he showed. All right? This is what he showed. You'd think that he actually read the report because he's using this report to prove that this didn't happen. But if you go to number 58, based on the examination of available information, including credible statements by eyewitnesses, there are reasonable grounds to believe that multiple incidents of rape, including gang rape, occurred in around the Nova Festival site during October 7th attacks. Credible information was obtained regarding multiple incidents whereby victims were subjected to rape and then killed. There are further accounts of individuals who witnessed at least 2 individual incidents of rape of corpses of women. Other credible sources at the Nova Festival site described seeing multiple murdered individuals, mostly women, whose bodies were found naked from the waist down, totally naked, with gunshots in their head, or tied with their hands bound behind their backs and tied to structures like poles and trees. This is in the same report that he uses to say, yep, no rape happened. This is his example. Now, they didn't actually prove that rape happened, but they did find women with bullets in their head, tied up, naked from the waist down. You can also look at number 66 on this same report. The mission team received credible information about the bodies found naked or tied, in one case gagged, and some of the kibbutzes destroyed houses and surroundings. While verification of sexual violence against these victims was not possible, right? They couldn't do actual verification. However, circumstantial evidence, notably the pattern of female victims found undressed and bound, may be indicative of some form of sexual violence. Hey, you don't say Noah Samsen. You don't fucking say that that's indicative of some shit happening, huh? Or what about this one? 71. The mission team reviewed the incidents of alleged sexual violence related to the hostages in Gaza. Based on first-hand accounts of released hostages, the mission team received clear and convincing information that sexual violence, including rape, sexualized torture, and cruel, inhuman, degrading treatment occurred against some women and children during their time in captivity, and had reasonable grounds to believe that this violence may be ongoing. So this is the UN report that he directly cites to prove that it didn't happen. All right, so we all on the same page? This is what he proves. It's this that says that. Yeah. Oh, one more time in case you want to hear the retardation.
Systematic, planned rape and genital mutilation of women.
All of these claims are false, complete fabrications.
All the claims are false, he says.
Full stop. No credible evidence has been provided for any of them. Many were shown to be deliberately fabricated, and despite this, they were spread far and wide and ultimately used as rhetorical justification to continue the genocidal onslaught in Gaza.
Yeah, so anyway, that's him. That's our boy. That's our guy. Hell yeah, dude. And Hasan just puts him on. Anyway, if you want to see more terrorist support, don't worry. Look no further.
Just
This
straight
is him supporting the Houthis and Hezbollah.
Up lies about Hezbollah and Ansar Allah, or the Houthis, in order
He is upset that people are lying about the Houthis and Hezbollah. How dare they slander these terrorists?
to delegitimize their struggle against Israel's genocide. He cites
actually the Houthis mostly are the ones that they're struggling against Saudi Arabia. They're not struggling against some sort of Israel genocide. Israel never genocided or even like majorly attacked the Houthis in any way.
Baseless claims from Saudi state propaganda outlets to attack the Houthis. He also cites a documentary about Ansar Allah,
He's so sad. He's so sad that they're attacking the Houthis and Nasrallah.
which he uses as proof of the claim that they brought back slavery, when the documentary wasn't even about the Houthis. It was about the Yemeni government before
And it's by the he's reading propaganda.
the Houthi takeover. He spreads
Right, so he's so mad that they're lying. They're lying about the Houthis and Hezbollah. Directly, what is even going on? Oh my God, dude! What are the worst things the Houthis have done? All right, so they've attacked civilians. They use child soldiers. They do sieges leading to humanitarian crisis. They plant landmines. They attack maritime traffic like American ships. They divert humanitarian aid just like Hamas does. They target religious and ethnic minorities. They reintroduce slavery and abuse. They torture and do arbitrary detention. Are we all on the same page? Are we all on the same page here? Houthis bad, all right? Houthis very bad. What are the worst thing Hezbollah's done? Well, they bombed people here. They supported a regime that genocided people here. They bombed people in Argentina. They started a war here. They caused 1,000 deaths in Lebanon. I mean, you can keep going. They also contributed to 656,000 deaths in Syria. These are incredibly bad people. Like wildly, incredibly bad people. They are slaver, terrorist, motherfucker monsters. They are villains. They are vindictive and cruel and monstrous people. And these are the people that Noah Samsen and Hasan Piker supports on a daily basis. I'm shocked that I even need to talk about this, but for some reason, he supports them.
long debunked Nakba denialist talking points that have been used for decades to legitimize Israeli colonization of Palestine. Ethan cites sources that contradict his own claims directly, such as the UN report he claims proves the Hamas mass rapes allegation.
There's a UN report that concludes it happened,
which the report itself denies.
The report doesn't deny it, he just lies here. I wanted you to see that entire clip because I wanted you to see he's like, which the report itself denies, and it doesn't deny it.
Rapes allegation.
There's a UN report that concludes.
Right, so this is what Ethan shows, that overall, based on the totality of information gathered from multiple and independent sources at the different locations, there are reasonable grounds to believe that conflict-related sexual violence occurred at several locations along the Gaza periphery, including in the form of rape and gang rape during the October 7, 2023 attacks. credible circumstantial information which may be indicative of some form of sexual violence, including genital mutilation, sexualized torture, cruel, inhuman, degrading treatment was also gathered. All right, so that is the UN report concluding that, yeah, it almost certainly happened on a massive level. All right, so anyway, this is what NOAA says.
It happened.
Which the report itself denies.
But it doesn't deny it. The thing that he shows says the mission team was unable to establish the prevalence of sexual violence and conclude the overall magnitude, scope, or specific attribution of these violations. That would require an investigation. So NOAA says the report denies it, but the report says we don't know the scope and we need to investigate it. That is not at all what NOAA says in his video. His own video is debunking him here. Bro's a retard.
He spends.
So I just thought that was definitely important to mention. So he keeps going here to start this whole beef with Asmongold, because Asmongold made a pretty wild take, and he basically says that anyone against Hasan Piker is ultimately pro-genocide.
Get people, in trouble. The campaign began as a response to the suspension of the live streamer Asmongold. Asmongold made some comments that explicitly justified Israel's genocide of Palestinians in Gaza.
I'm not going to cry a fucking river when people who have genocide that's baked into their laws are getting genocided. They come from an inferior culture. I don't feel bad for them. I don't feel sorry for them. I don't care. I don't support them.
Following his suspension for these comments, a community of large,
which he apologized for, by the way,
content creators, most notably the live streamer Destiny, along with his fan base, rushed to Asmongold's defense, whitewashing and justifying his comments.
Meanwhile, Asmongold gets a 15-day ban for having a spicy take on the war.
So you have someone like Asmongold who breathes the wrong direction, says the wrong thing, and instantly gets banned.
In this situation, one could, if they were to extend the charitability, could say that Asmongold was probably referring to extremists in the Islamic religion. Extremists in the Islamic religion.
The case of Asmongold's suspension.
Yeah, so basically, all those people were saying that there is a double standard going on at Twitch. Hasan directly supports terrorists. Okay? Directly supports terrorists. Asmongold made a very extreme take. The fact that Asmongold got punished and Hasan is consistently supporting terrorism is an obvious double standard. He doesn't see that at all. He doesn't even see it.
Suspension from Twitch.
In fact, not only does he not see it, but he says anyone that thinks that there's a double standard, any person that might even consider a double standard happening, is pro-genocide, because they're anti-Hasan, and Hasan is anti-genocide, so you must be anti-genocide, so you're pro-genocide. Noah Samsen math, baby. Hell yeah, dude.
Was then weaponized against these pro-Palestine voices.
No! Asmongold's incident was weaponized against the pro-Palestine voices. There's a big difference between a pro-Palestine voice and a pro-Hamas voice. The fact that you are conflating the two and making them sound like one and the same, I don't know, man. That's pretty fucked up.
Most notably Hasan, in an effort to get him deplatformed. To do this, they compiled a number of short clips taken from Hasan's live streams.
See, this is why I don't do like 8-minute videos for people to react to, and I actually go through it with all the evidence, because I actually feel like this argument is used all the time. It's just short, out of context clips of Hasan. So I actually started showing full context to basically everything that I talk about. That has been my new strategy, so no one actually could say this shit, and it's been working so far. People are loving the How Fucked Is Hasan Piker franchise.
Using them to accuse Hasan of things like supporting and promoting terrorism.
Which he does. He actually advocates for that. Yes, he does. He does do that. And so do you, Noah Samsen. I hate to be that guy, sir, but you also support terrorism. I don't know if you're aware.
Allegedly,
at least in my opinion.
Denying October 7th sexual violence.
He did deny October 7th sexual violence. Not allegedly. He actually did do that.
And making anti-Semitic statements.
He did. He also did do that directly. He did make anti-Semitic statements. He calls Jews bloodthirsty pig dogs, which is an actual Nazi slur. Dude is, yes, actually doing that. Yes, I concur. Yes, he's doing that for sure. Yeah, yeah, he does all those things that you said. Yeah. So anyway, so that's that. That's that. He then claims that Twitch didn't actually ban all of Israel, which it did, so that was just a lie. We don't need to rehash old drama that I've already covered, but I wanted to bring you to the conclusion of this motherfucking retard's video, because I think his conclusion definitely concludes things.
That's here. Zionism is Nazism.
So that's his conclusion. His conclusion is that Zionism is Nazism. Now, in case you're aware of the difference between Zionism and Nazism, which it probably is actually very different, I would say, Zionism and Nazism specifically. Now, I asked the AI, all right? You can say that the AI is a liar, but I felt like it would be appropriate. You could do your own research if you like. I completely think so. So Zionism and Nazism are two distinct ideologies with vastly different origins, goals, and implications. Zionism is a nationalist movement that emerged in the late 19th century among Jewish communities, primarily in Europe, advocating for the establishment of a Jewish homeland in their historic land of Israel. It was driven by a desire for self-determination and a response to widespread anti-Semitism, including persecutions, pogroms. The movement, formalized by figures like Theodor Herzl, sought to create a safe haven where Jews could live free from discrimination and maintain their cultural and religious identity. Today, Zionism is often associated with the support for the state of Israel, though it encompasses a range of political ideological perspectives from moderate to hardline nationalist views. Nazism, on the other hand, is an ideology of Nazis, led by Hitler. It was a fascist, totalitarian ideology rooted in extreme racial hierarchy, anti-Semitism, German supremacy. Nazism, the proto idea of a master race. All right, etc., etc. It's pretty obvious, incredibly obvious. Some differences. Zionism aimed to secure a homeland for a persecuted group. Nazism sought racial domination and territorial expansion through violence. Zionism, specific to the Jewish identity, self-determination. Nazism was a broader authoritarian ideology centered on racial purity and global supremacy. Zionism initially pursued diplomacy and settlement, like the Balfour Declaration, which is when basically England told Israel that they could establish a state, because England kind of owned the land at that point. Though it later involved conflict, Nazism relied on the militarized aggression, propaganda, and genocide. Zionism, at its core, is about survival and refuge, and Nazism explicitly embraced eliminationist policies and mass murder. In fact, I would argue that the only thing that that Zionism and Nazism have in common is nationalism. But other than that, they are diametric opposite fucking concepts. They are completely opposite to one another in like every other way, aside from the idea that's tying you to your homeland. That is the only thing that literally they have in common. Other than that, they are diametrically opposed ideologies. Noah might know that if he did research in anything. But again, we'll play it again because it's completely absurd.
That's just what it is. So just else used to call Hasan a terrorist or whatever. It's been a group effort. That's just what it is. So just a few final thoughts here. Zionism is Nazism. It's an ethnic supremacist, expansionist, colonial ideology. You can't have Zionism without genocide and ethnic cleansing. That's the
holy fuck, man.
end goal of the project. It's what it is. Palestine.
Yeah, all right. Well, anyway, I just wanted to bring you to the end goal of his project. Yeah, Zionism and Nazism are in fact not even remotely related. But thank you for coming here. I wanted to break down like a lot of the lies in his video. Obviously, it's not all the lies because he does a lot of yapping. But I felt like it would be important, and there was no way I was actually going to sit through this entire video and just kind of let him yap. I felt like, you know, bringing up all the Wikipedia articles and all the fucking Times articles and the random Twitter posts of actual terrorism that happens. I felt like we needed to do a lot of research for this one to actually make it hit home. But ultimately, I feel like this is a worthy entry into the How Fucked is Hasan Piker franchise. You gotta realize, Hasan reacts to all of this man's videos. He literally puts them in the forefront of everyone's mind as much as he can. He realizes that Noah Samsen is gonna say shit that would get him in trouble. So instead, he just platforms uncritically this absolute piece of shit as much as he can. Remember, this is Noah Samsen after doing this entire video, literally painting every single YouTuber that's against Hasan, every single Israeli civilian, and every single politician in America. He frames them as genocidal maniacs, and this is what he urges his audience to do.
People living in the West have the most power over anyone else in the world to stop the genocide. We are living in the belly of the beast. We have direct geographical, physical access to the politicians, the propagandists, the weapons companies, and the supply chains.
Physical access to propagandists like YouTubers and politicians. What is physical access gonna do?
that are facilitating this genocide. Protesting is great. We should keep doing that. But also, I feel like we have to be honest with ourselves. 17 months in, and what is protesting actually accomplished?
And he has to escalate from the protests too.
Raising awareness, sure. Divestment, yeah, in some places. But really, politically, materially, nothing. Israel just killed the most children in its history in a single night with total impunity, with a deafening silence among the Western media. If we want this genocide to stop, it's time to escalate. That's all I'm saying.
So that's all he's saying. To put this into normal terms, Noah Samsen, in my opinion, wants his audience to murder YouTubers and politicians that are either anti-Hasan or even remotely pro-Israel. And Hasan Piker will put this man on his stream to talk to his audience completely uncritically. Thank you so much for joining. This was a pretty long, in-depth one. I knew it would be long and in-depth. So thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you guys. Definitely like and subscribe. I want to be clear here. This is not me condoning every individual action ever taken in the history of anything ever. This is not condoning every soldier or every directive that Israel takes. This is not me being incredibly basic. I ally myself with all the opinions of that guy. This is not of any of that. This is an incredibly obvious statement, which is terrorism. Bad, very bad. And Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah, these are terrorists. And this guy is a genocidal freak, in my opinion. An actual genocidal freak, in my opinion, that wants to kill everyone in Israel. Based on my perspective. That's what he basically showed with the street interviews. And he is so bad faith about it too. Thank you for joining today's episode of Clown World, and I'll see you in the next one. Like, subscribe, and this video was streamed live on kick.com/Nuxanor. See you there. Stay weird, fam.